From Hollywood legends to UFC champions, substance abuse has destroyed careers, reputations, and even lives. Today, we're counting down 20 martial artists who battled addiction and how it led to their downfall. 1. Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee is widely regarded as the greatest martial artist of all time, but controversies surrounding his alleged drug use have persisted for decades. While Lee was known for his strict fitness regimen, some reports suggest he experimented with cannabis and painkillers to cope with intense training sessions and chronic pain. After his sudden death on July 20, 1973, an autopsy revealed traces of cannabis in his stomach, leading to speculation about whether drugs contributed to his passing. Some theories suggest he used diuretics or performance-enhancing substances, which may have led to fatal cerebral edema, brain swelling. His personal notebooks also reference drug use, including LSD and hashish, but it remains unclear how frequently he used them. Close friends and family members have denied claims of substance abuse, insisting that his death was due to a painkiller reaction or heat stroke, rather than long-term drug use. However, other reports allege that Lee used stimulants and steroids to maintain his incredibly low body fat percentage and extreme fitness level. Despite these rumors, there is no confirmed evidence that Bruce Lee was addicted to drugs. However, the debate over his alleged substance use continues, with some believing that prescription painkillers, stimulants, or other drugs may have played a role in his unexpected death at the age of 32. Whether or not he struggled with addiction, his impact on martial arts and cinema remains legendary. 2. Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee, the son of martial arts legend Bruce Lee, was on the verge of Hollywood stardom when his life was tragically cut short. Born in 1965, he trained in Jeet Kune Do, kickboxing, and judo, following in his father's footsteps. While he was never publicly known for drug abuse, some reports suggest he experimented with recreational substances during his early years in Hollywood. Close friends and colleagues admitted that Lee enjoyed partying and drinking, occasionally using cocaine and marijuana at industry events. However, there is no strong evidence that he ever developed a serious addiction. Unlike many other young actors in Hollywood's 1980s and 1990s party scene, Lee was known to be focused on his career and committed to his martial arts training. Despite speculation about his lifestyle, Lee's greatest tragedy came on set rather than from substance abuse. While filming The Crow in 1993, he was fatally shot by a malfunctioning prop gun, an accident that shocked the world. Some conspiracy theories emerged, linking his death to his father's mysterious passing, but no credible evidence supported these claims. Though Brandon Lee may have experimented with drugs, there is no proof that he struggled with addiction. His tragic death at 28 years old was unrelated to substance abuse, and he remains remembered for his potential as a martial arts star and action hero, rather than any rumored drug use. 3. David Carradine. David Carradine was a celebrated martial arts actor, best known for his role as Kwai Chang Caine in the 1970s TV series Kung Fu, and as Bill in Kill Bill, Vol. 1 and 2. However, behind the scenes, Carradine battled serious substance abuse issues for much of his life. Carradine was arrested multiple times for drunk driving, cocaine possession, and public intoxication. He admitted in interviews that he had struggled with alcoholism and drug use for decades, often indulging in cocaine, LSD, and hallucinogens during Hollywood's wildest years. His substance abuse contributed to failed marriages, erratic behavior on film sets, and legal troubles throughout his career. Despite his struggles, Carradine remained a respected actor and continued working in martial arts films. However, his drug and alcohol-fueled lifestyle may have played a role in his mysterious death. On June 3, 2009, Carradine was found dead in a Bangkok hotel room, with reports suggesting an autoerotic asphyxiation accident. His family initially suspected foul play, but authorities ruled his death as accidental. His battle with substance abuse overshadowed his later career, and his shocking death remains a subject of speculation to this day. 4. Jean-Claude Van Damme. Jean-Claude Van Damme was one of the biggest martial arts action stars of the 1980s and 1990s, but behind his Hollywood success, he battled a crippling cocaine addiction that nearly destroyed his career. At the height of his fame, Van Damme admitted to using up to 10 grams of cocaine a day, spending $10,000 a week on his habit. His addiction led to erratic behavior, failed marriages, and multiple arrests. As his drug use spiraled out of control, Van Damme's work ethic and discipline collapsed, leading to on-set difficulties and lost film deals. By the late 1990s, his career had declined drastically, and he was arrested for DUI multiple times. He briefly entered rehab, but he left after just 1 week, believing he could overcome addiction on his own. However, his struggles continued, and he was eventually diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which may have contributed to his substance abuse. Despite his past, Van Damme eventually turned his life around, returning to fitness and martial arts. By the 2000s, he slowly rebuilt his reputation with films like JCVD, 2008, and The Expendables, 2 Inches, 2012. While he remains open about his past struggles, Van Damme now lives a sober and disciplined lifestyle, proving that even the worst addictions can be overcome. 5. Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal was one of the biggest martial arts action stars of the late 1980s and 1990s. However, rumors and accusations have long surrounded Seagal regarding prescription painkiller abuse and erratic behavior linked to substance use. While he has never publicly admitted to drug addiction, multiple reports suggest that he misused pain medications to cope with injuries sustained throughout his career. Several former colleagues and stunt performers who worked with Seagal claimed he exhibited unstable and aggressive behavior, leading to speculation about substance abuse. In the 2000s, as his career declined, Seagal became increasingly reclusive, with some believing his dependence on prescription drugs played a role in his fading Hollywood presence. Additionally, he faced multiple lawsuits and allegations of misconduct, further damaging his reputation. Unlike other martial arts stars who have openly addressed their struggles with addiction, Seagal has never acknowledged any substance abuse issues. However, his noticeable weight gain, slowed movements, and reclusive behavior have fueled speculation that he may have battled long-term dependency on painkillers or other medications. Despite the rumors, Seagal continues to work in direct-to-video action films and remains involved in martial arts and law enforcement training. 6. Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly became a martial arts icon after starring alongside Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon, 1973, making history as one of the first black martial arts stars in Hollywood. Known for his charismatic screen presence, impressive karate skills, and signature afro, Kelly became a blaxploitation action hero in films like Black Belt Jones, 1974, and Three the Hard Way, 1974. However, behind his success, Kelly allegedly struggled with substance abuse, which some believe contributed to his career decline. Rumors of Kelly's drug use surfaced in the late 1970s and 1980s, with reports suggesting he regularly used marijuana and stimulants during his time in Hollywood. Some sources claim that his lifestyle led to inconsistent work ethic and lost opportunities, preventing him from achieving the same long-term success as other martial arts stars. However, Kelly never publicly confirmed these allegations, and no known arrests or rehab stints were documented. By the 1990s, Kelly had largely stepped away from acting, focusing on tennis and martial arts training instead. While he remained a respected figure in the martial arts community, he never returned to mainstream action films. Kelly passed away in 2013 from cancer at the age of 67, and his alleged struggles with substance use remain largely unconfirmed. 7. Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell, one of the most dominant UFC fighters of the 2000s, became a household name with his knockout power and aggressive fighting style. As a former UFC light heavyweight champion, he helped bring MMA into the mainstream. However, behind his success, Liddell struggled with substance abuse, particularly alcohol and painkillers, which affected both his career and personal life. Liddell was often seen partying excessively, and reports surfaced about his heavy drinking habits during and after his fighting career. Many fighters and analysts believed that alcohol abuse contributed to his decline, as he suffered several knockout losses late in his career. Additionally, due to years of intense fighting, Liddell allegedly relied on painkillers to manage injuries, leading to concerns about dependency. After retiring, Liddell's erratic behavior and slurred speech during interviews fueled speculation about long-term substance abuse and brain damage from fighting. In 2021, he was arrested for domestic violence, though the charges were later dropped. Despite these struggles, Liddell has since attempted to turn his life around, advocating for fighter health and better post-career support. While Liddell remains a legend in MMA, his substance use and reckless lifestyle during his prime may have contributed to his rapid decline and personal struggles after retirement. 8. Bolo Yeung. Bolo Yeung, known for his massive physique and villainous roles in martial arts films, became an action icon through films like Enter the Dragon, 1973, and Bloodsport, 1988. His intimidating presence, powerful build, and ruthless characters made him one of the most memorable martial arts stars of his era. However, throughout his career, rumors persisted that Yeung used steroids and painkillers, leading to speculation about possible substance dependency. Many fans and industry insiders questioned how Yeung maintained his extreme muscularity well into his later years, with some alleging that he relied on performance-enhancing drugs, PEDs. Although he never publicly admitted to steroid use, experts in bodybuilding and martial arts have speculated that his rapid muscle growth and prolonged size could not have been achieved naturally. Additionally, given the physical demands of his roles, it was rumored that he took painkillers to endure intense training and filming schedules. Despite these allegations, Bolo Yeung never faced legal issues or public scandals related to drugs. He remained dedicated to fitness and martial arts, continuing to train well into his 70s. While the speculation surrounding his possible steroid use and painkiller dependency persists, no definitive evidence has ever surfaced. 9. Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is one of the biggest names in MMA history, known for his explosive fighting style, brash personality, and record-breaking pay-per-view events. However, along with his success, McGregor has been involved in numerous controversies related to substance abuse, particularly involving alcohol, cocaine, and prescription painkillers. His erratic behavior, violent outbursts, and multiple legal troubles have fueled speculation about the extent of his drug use. Throughout his career, McGregor has been seen partying excessively, often appearing intoxicated in public. After his boxing match against Floyd Mayweather in 2017, his behavior became increasingly reckless. Reports suggested that he was indulging in heavy drinking, cocaine use, and painkillers, a lifestyle that began affecting his training and performances in the UFC. His 2018 loss to Khabib Nurmagomedov was followed by an infamous post-fight brawl, leading to further speculation about his mental state and substance use. In 2019 and 2020, McGregor was arrested multiple times for assault, property damage, and other violent incidents, often while allegedly under the influence. He was also accused of sexual misconduct, though no charges were filed. His 2021 return to the UFC saw him suffer a gruesome leg injury, which some believe led to an increased reliance on pain medication. Despite these issues, McGregor continues to be a massive figure in combat sports, frequently teasing a comeback. However, concerns remain about whether his substance use and reckless behavior will permanently derail his career and legacy. 10. Joe Sun. Joe Sun, a former MMA fighter and actor, is best known for his role as Random Task in Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery, 1997, and his short-lived career in the UFC. However, his legacy is overshadowed by his criminal activities and severe drug addiction, particularly his methamphetamine abuse, which played a major role in his violent behavior and downfall. Sun competed in early UFC events but was quickly exposed as an unskilled fighter, losing his only UFC bout in 1994. As his MMA career failed, his drug use escalated, leading to a criminal lifestyle. He became heavily involved in methamphetamine and other substances, which fueled his violent tendencies. In 2008, Sun was arrested for his involvement in a brutal 1990 gang rape, a crime linked to his meth-fueled lifestyle. In 2011, he was sentenced to life in prison, and his violent streak continued behind bars. In 2017, he was convicted of killing his cellmate, further cementing his status as one of the most infamous figures in martial arts history. 11. Benny the Jet Urquidez. Benny the Jet Urquidez is a legendary kickboxer and martial artist, known for his undefeated record in full contact competition and for bringing kickboxing to mainstream audiences. However, throughout his career, there have been persistent rumors regarding substance use, particularly stimulants, which some claim gave him an edge in the ring. During the 1970s and 1980s, when kickboxing was still developing as a sport, drug testing was not as strict as in modern combat sports. Some insiders have alleged that Urquidez used stimulants before fights to enhance his focus, endurance, and aggression. Others speculated that he may have relied on painkillers due to the extreme physical toll of his fights. However, Urquidez has never tested positive for any banned substances, and no official records confirm these allegations. Beyond the rumors, Urquidez built a career as a respected trainer and stunt choreographer, working in Hollywood alongside Jackie Chan, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and John Cusack. He remained active in martial arts well into his later years, focusing on teaching and spreading his unique Ukidokan karate system. While speculation about substance use in his competitive days continues, there is no confirmed evidence that Urquidez struggled with addiction. His reputation remains that of a pioneering kickboxer and martial arts instructor, whose impact on the sport and film industry is undeniable. 12. Mark Kerr. Mark Kerr was once one of the most dominant heavyweight fighters in MMA, winning championships in both UFC and Pride FC. Nicknamed the Smashing Machine, he was known for his raw power, wrestling skills, and relentless fighting style. However, behind the scenes, Kerr struggled with severe opioid addiction, which ultimately derailed his career. Kerr's addiction began with painkillers, which he initially used to manage the brutal injuries sustained from fighting. As his career progressed, he became dependent on opioids, using them not just for pain relief but also to cope with the mental and physical pressure of professional fighting. His drug use escalated to heroin and other narcotics, causing erratic behavior and performance issues. His addiction was publicly documented in the 2002 HBO documentary The Smashing Machine, which showed his downward spiral as he struggled to balance his fighting career with his worsening substance abuse. The film captured his moments of desperation, including withdrawal symptoms, strained relationships, and failed comeback attempts. Despite several stints in rehab, Kerr never fully regained his former dominance. His career faded in the mid-2000s with a series of losses and failed comebacks. While he eventually stepped away from competition, he continues to battle addiction and mental health issues. His rise and fall remains one of the most tragic stories in MMA history. 13. Bas Rutten. Bas Rutten, a former UFC heavyweight champion and Pancrase legend, is regarded as one of the most charismatic and technically skilled fighters in MMA history. Known for his devastating liver shots and striking precision, he dominated the sport during his prime. However, behind his success, Rutten struggled with painkiller dependency and performance-enhancing drug, PED, use, which he later admitted affected both his career and health. Rutten's addiction to painkillers stemmed from the countless injuries he endured throughout his fighting years. Like many athletes, he relied on opioids and anti-inflammatory drugs to numb the pain and continue competing. However, over time, the dosages increased and he found himself becoming more dependent. In addition, he experimented with steroids and PEDs, believing they would speed up his recovery and allow him to train harder. As his career progressed, Rutten realized his substance dependency was taking a toll on both his mental and physical health. Determined to break free, he made the difficult decision to quit painkillers entirely and transition to a natural recovery approach, focusing on proper nutrition, rehabilitation, and clean living. Today, Rutten is a strong advocate for drug-free training, frequently speaking out about the dangers of painkiller abuse in MMA. He warns younger fighters about the risks of relying on opioids and PEDs, encouraging them to prioritize long-term health over short-term gains. His journey serves as a powerful example of overcoming addiction, proving that even the most disciplined martial artists can fall into substance dependency. But recovery is always possible. 14. War Machine, Jan Koppenhaver. Jan Koppenhaver, better known by his MMA nickname War Machine, was once considered a promising fighter in UFC and Bellator, known for his aggressive brawling style and relentless attitude inside the cage. However, outside of the ring, his life was plagued by drug addiction, violent outbursts, and criminal behavior, ultimately leading to his imprisonment for life. War Machine had a history of erratic and reckless behavior, which only worsened with substance abuse. His use of cocaine, steroids, and excessive alcohol fueled his self-destructive tendencies, leading to frequent arrests, fights, and altercations with law enforcement. His unstable lifestyle alienated friends, coaches, and fellow fighters. But rather than seeking help, he continued down a path of addiction and destruction. His substance-fueled violence escalated to its worst point in 2014, when he brutally assaulted and nearly killed his then-girlfriend, adult film actress Christy Mack. Following a nationwide manhunt, he was captured, and in 2017, he was sentenced to life in prison for attempted murder, assault, and multiple other charges. War Machine's downfall is one of the most shocking cases of wasted potential in MMA history. His drug addiction, uncontrollable rage, and criminal behavior took him from a rising fighter to a convicted felon, forever tarnishing his legacy. Today, he serves as a dark reminder of how substance abuse and unchecked aggression can destroy even the most promising careers in combat sports. 15. Gary Goodridge. Gary Big Daddy. Goodridge was a fearsome knockout artist in both MMA and kickboxing, competing in UFC, Pride FC, and K1. Known for his brutal striking power and fearless fighting style, Goodridge was a fan favorite. However, years of head trauma, chronic pain, and substance abuse led to his physical and mental decline. Throughout his career, Goodridge relied on steroids and painkillers to cope with injuries and stay competitive. He later admitted to using performance-enhancing drugs, PEDs, which contributed to mood swings and aggressive behavior. As his career wore on, his dependence on prescription opioids increased, leading to a downward spiral of addiction and depression. In 2012, Goodridge was diagnosed with chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, a degenerative brain disease caused by repeated head trauma. His declining health, combined with years of substance abuse, forced him into retirement. He later admitted that steroids and painkillers played a role in his struggles with memory loss, emotional instability, and financial difficulties. Despite his past substance abuse, Goodridge has since become an advocate for fighter safety, speaking out about the dangers of CTE, steroid use, and painkiller addiction. His story serves as a warning to fighters about the long-term risks of drug dependency and untreated injuries in combat sports. 16. Rico Rodriguez. Rico Rodriguez was once a UFC heavyweight champion, reaching the pinnacle of MMA in the early 2000s. However, his career was derailed by drug and alcohol addiction, leading to a rapid downfall marked by arrests, financial ruin, and personal struggles. Rodriguez's addiction began with painkillers, which he used to manage the physical toll of MMA training and competition. Over time, he moved on to cocaine and alcohol, which spiraled out of control after winning the UFC title in 2002. His newfound fame and wealth fueled a reckless lifestyle, leading to excessive partying, legal troubles, and erratic behavior. At his lowest point, Rodriguez admitted to snorting cocaine off his championship belt, symbolizing how deeply addiction had consumed him. His substance abuse led to weight gain, poor performances, and a series of losses, effectively ending his time as a top-tier fighter. He was also arrested multiple times for DUI and drug-related incidents, further damaging his reputation. Despite his struggles, Rodriguez eventually sought rehab and attempted a comeback in smaller MMA promotions. Though he never regained his former glory, he became an advocate for sobriety, warning young fighters about the dangers of addiction in combat sports. 17. Josh Barnett. Josh Barnett, a former UFC heavyweight champion, was one of the most skilled grapplers and strikers in MMA. However, his career was marred by multiple drug test failures and accusations of steroid abuse, leading to suspensions and missed opportunities. Though Barnett has denied being addicted to PEDs, his repeated positive tests for anabolic steroids cast a shadow over his legacy. Barnett first failed a drug test in 2002, shortly after winning the UFC heavyweight championship, leading to him being stripped of his title. Instead of staying in the UFC, he moved to Japan's Pride FC, where drug testing was less strict, allowing him to continue fighting. However, his steroid use rumors persisted, with many believing it gave him an unfair advantage. In 2009, Barnett failed another pre-fight drug test, leading to the cancellation of his highly anticipated bout against Fedor Emelianenko. This resulted in the collapse of the Affliction MMA promotion, further damaging his reputation. He continued fighting but failed another test in 2016, though he later successfully appealed. Despite his repeated PED violations, Barnett remains a highly respected coach and analyst, frequently advocating for fighter safety and drug reform in MMA. His career, however, will always be tainted by controversies surrounding performance-enhancing drugs, making him one of the most infamous cases of steroid use in martial arts history. 18. Evan Tanner. Evan Tanner was a UFC middleweight champion and one of the most unique personalities in MMA history. Unlike many fighters, Tanner was self-taught, learning martial arts through instructional videos before becoming a top competitor. However, behind his success, he struggled with alcoholism and depression, which ultimately led to his tragic death. Tanner's problems with alcohol abuse became evident during the later years of his fighting career. Friends and teammates noted that he would go on long drinking binges, disappearing for days at a time. His battle with addiction and mental health issues often affected his training, leading to inconsistent performances inside the cage. Despite this, he managed to capture the UFC middleweight championship in 2005, solidifying his place in MMA history. After losing his title, Tanner's personal struggles worsened. He distanced himself from the sport and lived as a nomad, often embarking on solitary adventures in the wilderness. In 2008, he set out on a solo journey into the California desert, intending to spend time alone in self-reflection. However, he became stranded without water in extreme heat, and his body was later found several days later. His death was ruled an accident, but many believed his struggles with alcoholism and depression played a role in his reckless decision. Evan Tanner's story remains one of MMA's most heartbreaking tragedies, serving as a reminder of the mental health battles many fighters face behind the scenes. 19. Phil Baroni. Phil Baroni, once known as the New York Badass, was a charismatic and explosive MMA fighter with a reputation for knockout power and an aggressive fighting style. However, his career was overshadowed by drug abuse, violent behavior, and legal troubles, culminating in his arrest for murder in 2023. Baroni's substance abuse problems began early in his fighting career. He was rumored to have used steroids, cocaine, and prescription painkillers, which contributed to his erratic behavior and frequent outbursts. As his MMA career declined, his drug and alcohol use escalated, leading to multiple arrests for assault, drug possession, and DUI incidents. His struggles with addiction severely impacted his performance in the cage. After losing multiple fights and being released from major MMA promotions, Baroni attempted to rebuild his career in smaller organizations, but his personal issues continued to derail his progress. Reports surfaced of him getting into violent altercations outside the ring, often while under the influence of drugs or alcohol. In 2023, Baroni was arrested in Mexico for the murder of his girlfriend, reportedly following a drug-fueled argument. He remains in custody awaiting trial, marking one of the most shocking downfalls of any MMA fighter. Once a promising talent in the sport, his drug addiction and violent tendencies turned him from a fan favorite to a tragic cautionary tale. 20. Diego Sanchez. Diego Sanchez, one of the most unorthodox and entertaining fighters in UFC history, was known for his relentless fighting style, toughness, and wild personality. However, throughout his career, he battled substance abuse, mental health struggles, and erratic behavior, which affected both his professional and personal life. Sanchez's issues with alcohol and drug use became evident in the later stages of his career. Teammates and insiders claimed he engaged in heavy drinking and experimented with various substances, leading to bizarre behavior and poor career decisions. His downward spiral intensified when he became involved with Joshua Fabia, a controversial figure who acted as his coach and manager. Fabia was accused of manipulating Sanchez, isolating him from longtime coaches and encouraging paranoid and destructive behavior. His substance abuse and mental instability led to concerning public appearances, including slurred speech, erratic interviews, and strange training methods. Eventually, the UFC cut ties with Sanchez in 2021, citing concerns over his well-being. After separating from Fabia, Sanchez admitted that he had been on a self-destructive path, fueled by bad influences, substance use, and personal struggles. Despite these issues, Sanchez is currently working on rebuilding his life and career, competing in bare-knuckle boxing and focusing on mental and physical recovery. His story remains a cautionary tale of how substance abuse and poor influences can derail even the most talented athletes. Addiction has destroyed the careers and lives of some of martial arts' biggest names. Which story shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments.